Hello again. It is the fourth and final story about a new character, April Mendez. Now, I just want to start by saying that um, there are two main characters again in this one, and that both of them have a problem. And we're going to meet the younger one first, and surprisingly, she already has a library card. Chapter 1. When my father said we were moving to a farm, I thought to myself, okay, good. I was sick of the toilet that would never work, sick of seeing my breath in winter in the bedroom, sick of being afraid to open the kitchen cupboard because a rat might jump out, like it really did once. So I was happy to come here, to a farm in Pennsylvania, until I found out what kind of farm it was. A mushroom farm. I always hated mushrooms. In New York City, that was easy to do. I just didn't eat them. I don't eat them here either, but I can't stop breathing, and that's where they get me. Because they stink. Well, not the mushrooms themselves, but the stuff they grow in. It's not regular dirt like any decent normal plant. Oh no. They have to grow in poop. Horse poop, to be exact. There's piles of it all over. Heaps, mountains. You could see the smell steaming off of it. My father's boss laughed the first time he saw me holding my nose. It's only part poop, he said. Except he said manure. He said they mix it with corn cobs and other stuff. Big deal. They can mix it with peppermint patties if it still smells like poop. Don't think of it that way, my mother tells me. Think of it as the opposite, a perfume. She lifts her upper lip, sticks out her little finger, and says like a French lady, "Eau de parfum." I laugh. I still smell poop. Now, do these mountains of horse dung stay outside where they belong? Oh no. The workers shovel it inside into long, low buildings because that's where mushrooms like to grow, in the dark. In spite of their taste, in spite of the smell, maybe I could stand to live with mushrooms if at least they grew in sunshine like everything else. But they don't, and that makes them creepy, evil, the werewolves of the plant world. Sometimes I think they're in cahoots with the moon. Sometimes at night I feel them out there in their long, low houses, silently oozing their little, round, white faces up out of their dark, smelly blankets. The moon and our million babies. I get the willies. It's your imagination running away with you, says my mother. Maybe so, but the stories I hear around here don't help either. Weird stories about mushrooms with their dark powers and how they can grow anywhere it's dark. And there's this, where it's dark and there's the smallest speck of dirt. I had a nightmare once that I woke to find them sprouting between my toes. So, I never have to be told to shower. Instead, I usually have to be told to get out. I try to keep my dark places lit up. I lie outside on a blanket in my bathing suit. I keep my arms upraised. I make sure both ears get a turn in the sun, and I spread my toes apart with jelly beans. I don't think it's going to get better when school starts next week. I hear they call people like me mushies. Maybe I could stand all this if there was a library around. In New York City, the library was only 2 blocks from our apartment. Whenever I felt bad, that's where I went. In fact, I went there when I felt good, too. I was there every day. I got mad one time at Christmas when I found out the library was closed. I love my library card. It was all creased and smudged and spilled on, and the corners were rounded and furry. But it was the only official card I ever had, and the reason it was so beat up was because I carried it with me everywhere, because I never knew when I might need it. My mother said it was a good thing I had it, too, letting me bring books home, because otherwise I'd never leave the library, because I couldn't stop reading. She would have to bring me my meals to the library and send along my stuffed red hippo so I could sleep at night. We used to laugh about that. I still have the card. Every day I stick it in my pocket, just like in New York City. But I'm in mushroom land now, and I haven't seen a library since we moved here. So, she's got the opposite problem of the other 3 characters. Chapter 2. When I woke up this morning, a breeze was blowing. Eau de parfum. Through my bedroom window. I knew I needed a break. I decided to pack a lunch and take a hike. Then I figured, Why wait till lunch? I put a cream cheese and jelly sandwich and an apple in a paper bag and announced to my mother what I was doing. I told her I'd only go as far as the trees at the edge of the farm. You can see them from the house. She said, take something to drink. I said, I'm not going to be gone that long. She said to be careful. It was true. I didn't think I would be gone very long. I didn't expect to go past the trees, but I got there so fast I thought, what kind of hike is that? I could still smell the smell. So I took out my sandwich and kept walking. I guess my idea was to keep walking till I came to the end of the smell. I walked through a field of cornstalk stubble, jumped over a little stream, climbed some fences, crossed some more fields, more mushroom farms, and always steaming on the horizon were the ever-present dark brown hills of perfume. I finished the sandwich, finished the apple, and was starting to wish I had brought something to drink when I came to a road. I turned onto it. I hadn't seen another person, only a couple of cows since I left my house, and the road was just about as lonely. Every few minutes a truck roared by, and that was about it. It seemed like the rest of the world was smart enough to stay away from this place. Mushroom Land was sort of hilly. The road dipped out of sight ahead of me, so I heard the next truck coming before I saw it. When it did come into view, it wasn't a truck after all, but a bus, green and white. I don't know why, but I stopped to watch it, and as it barreled down the road toward me, I thought it must be having some sort of hallucination. Those fumes were finally getting to me, because I imagined I saw a word painted in big white letters across the green stripe above the wide window of the oncoming bus, and the word was BOOKS, books. And then I jumped into my own hallucination. I was standing in the road, waving my arms like a banshee. The bus was blowing its horn and veering out to miss me, not slowing, not stopping. And then it passed me, gusting in my face, the bus without windows on the sides. And then brakes were screaming and gasping, and half a city block beyond me, the bus came to a halt, its two right wheels deep in blue roadside flowers. The squared-off top swayed against the sky. I ran for the bus. A side door opened. Someone came out, a girl about high school age, hair dark as mine, but longer, stomping toward me, yelling at me. You're not hurt, are you? Huh? Are you? She had a little silver ring in one nostril and another through one eyebrow, not to mention a bunch in her earlobes on most fingers. I couldn't talk. I shook my head. I cringed. I thought she was going to trample me. She grabbed me by the arm and started dragging me to the bus. Are you lost? I couldn't take my eyes off her fingernails. Every one was as long as a dagger. Every one was a different color, a different design. Well? She demanded. No, I said. It occurred to me to resist, but I kept thinking of the word in big white letters. So I let her hoist me onto the bottom step of the bus. The driver was a lady with a baseball cap and a t-shirt picturing a whale. She swiveled her seat to face me in the doorway. Are you all right? Asked the lady. I will be, I told her, if you get this fiend off of me. The girl poked me from behind. What do you call me? I took a swing at her and missed. I wasn't afraid now that the lady was there. Knock it off, I yelled. The girl laughed. The lady reached out and touched my shoulder. What are you doing out here by yourself? Why were you waving us down? I told her about the hike and about looking up and seeing that word coming at me. After that, I don't know. What kind of bus is this? She smiled and took my hand and pulled me all the way in. It's a bookmobile. She smiled and took my hand and pulled me all the way in. Oh, I'm sorry. I read that already. I turned to my left. I was looking down an aisle to the back of the bus, and on both sides were shelves crammed with books. I had read about magic buses and giant peaches and flying couches. Maybe this wasn't a hallucination after all. Maybe I was smack in the middle of a story. I kept staring down the aisle. Is this real? As real as you are, said the lady. Have you never seen a bookmobile? I never heard of one. I took one step forward. I reached out and touched a book. We make stops all around the country, mostly in rural areas that don't have a library nearby. Okay, Miss Wondernail snapped. She grabbed my arm and started dragging me out of the bus. The lady grabbed the other arm, and for a minute I thought I was going to be wishboned. The lady shouted, Let go! So suddenly and so loud that I jumped and the girl let go. The lady pulled me closer to her and said to the girl in a voice just like my mother uses when she's had enough of me, "You can do what you want, but I'm not going to put this child back on this road by herself." They stared at each other for a long time. Only the girl's eyes looked fierce now. The rest of her had sort of slumped. Then she lunged past me and jabbed a glitter-sprinkled purple fingernail in the lady's face. "You get me there. You hear?" Like she was turning a page, the lady moved the purple dagger aside with her own ordinary-looking finger. "Don't point," she said. "Close the door." The girl yanked the door shut and tromped down the aisle to the back. "What's going on here?" I asked the lady. "We're being hijacked," she said. "Have a seat." That's a surprise. Chapter 3. There was an extra seat up front, but I was too itchy to sit. I went to the back. The girl was sitting on the floor, bridging the aisle. Her back against one bookcase, the bottoms of her feet up against the other. "You're a hijacker?" I said. Her eyes were closed. "You got a problem with that?" "I was never hijacked before. You got a gun?" A smirk crossed her face. With her eyes still closed, she pulled something from a little leather pouch hanging from her belt. It looked like a tiny homemade hatchet. The handle was maybe 3 inches long. The cutting part was a razor blade. Now she was looking up at me. "Would you really do it?" I said. "Do what?" "Hurt somebody." Suddenly, the blade swiped in front of my face, just missing my nose. She grinned. "What do you think?" At the very back of the bookmobile was a small table. I sat on it. It seemed I should be afraid, but I wasn't. "What's your name?" I said. "What do you care?" "Are you always so grumpy?" The driver called back. "Her name is Nanette." Nanette sent a "shut up" the aisle. "My name starts with an A," I said. "Want to know it?" "No." "It's a month." I said. "No." I chuckled. "Well, you can already figure it out. You know it's not August, right?" She stared straight ahead at her own shoe tops. "The 4th month?" I leaned over toward her. "After March?" She glared up at me. "April." If I didn't know it couldn't happen so fast, I would have thought she hated me already. "Want to know my last name?" I said. Out came the razor blade. It was turning in front of my eyes. "Try it." The bookmobile slowed down. "Okay," I whispered. I leaned back really slowly. She put the razor away. The bookmobile speeded up. I kept my mouth shut for as long as I could. Finally, I said, "Mind if I ask why you're hijacking us?" She was back on the floor, eyes closed, head against a row of adult paperback mysteries. "Yes," she said. Suddenly, I noticed something. "Hey, look, the shelves, they're tilted." Every shelf that I could see was slanted downward, away from the aisle. "So the books don't fall when I take corners on 2 wheels," the driver called back. "Whoopee," said Nanette. "How old are you?" I asked. 95. "I'm 11 and a half. Did it hurt getting those rings put in?" I kept asking, and she kept not answering. "Did they get caught and stuff? Does it bother you when you blow your nose? Do you have others that aren't showing?" Then when I said, "Can I touch one?" the reaction was different. She didn't say anything. She didn't nod. She didn't even open her eyes. But her shoulders just kind of moved a tiny bit. And she gave a sniff. And somehow I knew that wasn't a no. I let myself down from the table, got down on my knees beside her, facing her. With her purple eyeshadow and long black lashes and silver rings in her eyebrow and nose, she looked like an Egyptian princess to me. I reached over, and with just the tip of my finger, I touched the one in her nose. I pushed it from vertical to horizontal. "Wow," I whispered. Her breath brushed my fingers. I gave the ring a tiny tug. The side of her nostril puckered. "Does that hurt?" "No." Then I touched the one in her eyebrow. Then I started touching her fingernails. Her hands were lying limp in her lap, all 10 nails facing up. One thumb had a skull and crossbones. The other was pink with a white heart and a Cupid's arrow and tiny pink letters that said, NM loves WP. I lifted one of her hands, just the fingers, just to feel such fingers. I expected her eyes to come flying open, but they didn't. Are you NM? I whispered. Wouldn't you like to know? How about WP? She smirked. Your boyfriend? Her eyes were open, staring at me. I couldn't tell if she was mad or not. She called up front. Hey, when's that stop coming up? About 2 minutes, Stiller's Corner. Then my stop is next. Yep, Dorcas Road. Nanette gave a sharp nod. That's me. That's where my life starts. I walk out that door, I'm born. She jumped to her feet, wiggled her hips, she clapped her hands and threw them in the air. I'm a newborn baby. She was transformed. She was happy, perky, goofy. She did a funny dance up and down the aisle. I had to laugh. She didn't calm down until the driver called out, Stiller's Corner, and the bookmobile came to a halt. Within seconds, we were mobbed, mostly by kids, but a couple of grown-ups, too. The driver swiveled around, and the table behind her became a check-in, check-out counter. The littlest kids found their books on the bottom shelves. The older kids' books were higher. Nanette and I sat on the table in the back. I felt giggly watching it all. Don't you love libraries? I gushed. She looked at me like I was a poisoned mushroom. Ready for my last name now? I said. You ready to die? She said, putting her hand on her leather pouch. I jumped down from the table and mingled with the books. Okay, we're going to stop right there. See you soon.